So over the past few days, there have been a lot of things that have been happening both here in America as well as around the world. Let's go through some of them together. According to new data that was just released by the FBI, gun sales in 2020 within the United States have set an all-time record high. So the FBI is able to determine the number of gun sales based on the number of background checks that were conducted. And in 2020, federal authorities carried out more than 39.5 million background checks. By the way, that's about a 40% increase from 2019, from the previous year. In fact, last month alone, which was in December of 2020, it was the busiest month on record, with almost 4 million background checks being conducted just in December. Now, in general, gun sales do typically increase in election years, historically. However, 2020 was an exceptional year, even within the context of being an election year, owing to the pandemic, the social unrest and the protests that happened all around the country, as well as the general political uncertainty that we saw throughout the entire year, as well as after the election. And one specific factor that should not be overlooked is that ahead of the election, as well as after the election, many people feared losing their gun rights if Joe Biden won the presidency. That's because he has, in the past, called for a number of measures, including prohibiting online gun sales, incentivizing states to introduce red flag laws, and on his campaign website, Joe Biden boasted that he has taken on the NRA twice and won. That's, by the way, a reference to his part in passing 2 specific pieces of anti-gun legislation. On that same page, it says that, as president, Joe Biden will defeat the NRA again. And furthermore, in a Twitter post from about 12 days ago, Joe Biden wrote that, "I pledge to continue to work with you and with survivors, families, and advocates across the country to defeat the NRA and end our epidemic of gun violence." Now, the NRA, as I'm sure you're already aware, stands for the National Rifle Association. They have more than 5 million members nationwide, and as an organization, they seek to protect and educate people about their Second Amendment rights. And about a week after Joe Biden posted that tweet, the NRA announced that they are leaving New York by filing for bankruptcy and reincorporating in Texas. In a statement that was released by their CEO, it said, "Today, the NRA announced a restructuring plan that positions us for the long term and ensures our continued success as the nation's leading advocate for constitutional freedom, free from the toxic political environment of New York. The plan can be summed up quite simply. We are dumping New York, and we are pursuing plans to reincorporate the NRA in Texas." Now, in terms of why they're actually choosing to go this bankruptcy route, here's a bit of context for you. The New York Attorney General, who is a Democrat, by the way, filed a lawsuit against the NRA late last year, alleging that top executives engaged in diversion of millions of dollars away from the charitable mission of the organization for personal use by senior leadership, awarding contracts to the financial gain of close associates and family, and appearing to dole out lucrative no-show contracts to former employees in order to buy their silence and continued loyalty. In response, the NRA denounced this lawsuit, referring to it as basically a political crusade to destroy the organization. Now, Texas has about 400,000 NRA members, and in a Twitter post, the governor of Texas welcomed the NRA by saying that, "Welcome to Texas, a state that safeguards the Second Amendment." The NRA announced that they have plans to hold their annual convention in Houston, Texas later this year.